All right, so for this video, we're going to talk a little bit about light linking. So light linking is basically when you have certain objects in your scene that you want to receive light from your light source and other objects that you don't. So you can do it with both shadows and you can do it with light. So with shadows, it's basically whether you want an object to cast shadows or not. So if you want it to be able to cast shadows, you would do a shadow link to it. If an object you want to receive light, you would do a light link. So I'm going to show you a quick reason why you'd want to do that. So I had created this scene. This is a scene I'm starting to work on that's out of an old board game from the 80s called Fireball Island. I created an object and some fireballs and some paths and everything on here, put some textures on them. I still have to do the texturing for the ground. But basically, I wanted to come in here and add something simple for the background. I just wanted to have some clouds back here. So I went to Google and I did a Google search, found an image of clouds that I liked and put it in here. And with the basic light setup that I was using in here, there was no light that was reflecting on the mesh plane that I had dropped in here. I basically just added a mesh plane with the image, stretched it up to the size I needed. It looked pretty good. And then I went over into the render tab and it looks like this. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. You know, I have this image over here that I want to be able to use as my background. But the second I go into the actual cycles render, it doesn't show. It just shows as black. So I'm like, okay, so it probably needs more light. So I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? I went ahead and I was like, all right, let's add in a sun. So add in a sunlight. Okay, and we're going to put this back a little ways so it's behind my object and closer to the source back here. I'll raise it up a little bit too. And so I went back and I'm like, all right, so it needs to be a little bit brighter. So maybe if I brighten up the sun, you know, we'll get what we want. So it came over here and I was like, all right, let's go to strength of 25. And I'm like, oh, okay, the background looks good for what I want because it's all the lights reflecting off of it and coming back onto the background. But the objects are all blown out now, and this is terrible. I don't want it affecting any of the stuff up front because I want to have more of a dark scene, and then I just want the background lit. So I was like, all right, well, how do I do this? Well, that's where light linking comes in. So one of the simplest ways to do light linking, if you don't want to have to go find it in all the menus and stuff over on the right, you can actually select whatever objects that you want to be affected by the light. Okay, so if it's multiple objects, you can select multiple, or you can select a whole collection. And then after you do that, you're going to shift left click on your object that's creating the light. So in this case, it's the sun. I'm going to hit Control L for linking, same way that you would link like modifiers and materials, just Control L. And you're going to see one down here. It says link receivers to emitter. And you have include or exclude. So if I wanted everything to be affected by it except for the background, I would do exclude because I'm going to exclude that item that I had selected before I selected my sun. Or if I wanted to only include that object or whatever I have selected, I'm going to hit include. So we'll go ahead and do that. So I hit include. Now what you're going to see is everything goes dark and you're like, all right, well, I don't understand because the light was enough light to be able to light it before, and now that you did this, it doesn't show up, so something must be wrong, right? And the answer is no. So the reason why is because the light that I had on here and set to 25 was reflecting off of all the surfaces back onto the background. So it required a lot less light to be able to reflect back onto the background. So now that we don't have anything bouncing back, there's no more light bounce that's coming off anything going back over there, we need to raise up the light by a lot. It's a huge difference when you have no light bounce off of anything. So we're going to take this light and we're going to bring this up to 500. Okay, so now you see how much light I had to add in, but it gives you this really cool look to it that's going to have this cloudy backdrop to it. And so when I go into my camera for the object that I wanted to take the picture, I'm like, oh, this actually looks pretty good. I can go ahead and I can have this set up and I like the way it looks. And when I go ahead and let's say that I wanted to be able to see what this looks like when it's animated, I could take this object, hit my space bar, and I had already set this up to be able to go ahead and roll downhill. So I'm going to have it to where it can have the fireball rolling downhill and being able to come out of this. And when I render it, obviously everything's gonna be in focus. It won't be blurred out like this. But this is a cool way that I can come in here and have the backdrop the way that I want it and only affects the light and the one object. So if you want to know where it is in all the settings, if you come over on the right and you go into object and you go under shading, okay, you're going to see light linking and shadow linking. And if I click on that object back there, sorry, my sun object here, you're going to see that the light linking tab has a new group, new object in here. Okay, the radiant cloudy sky. So if you wanted to, you actually could come in here and do this manually and add in, hit the plus symbol, add in whatever object you want affected by it, and it would go ahead and do that. And then you're going to be able to come on here and take and set this up to where if you check the box, it's going to be included. You uncheck it, it won't be included. So if you accidentally put too many items in there and you don't necessarily want to delete it out of there, you want access to it in the future to be able to just check a box, you can just check or uncheck that box. So if I uncheck that box, now it's affecting everything because there's nothing that it's linked to. It's not light linking one item. I check it back, it's going to only link to that one. So hopefully that helps. Just a quick little tutorial. You could do the same thing with shadow linking. So this one is just something that I used. I needed it today, so I figured I'd share this with everybody. And hopefully this helps you out a little bit when you're doing your lighting. Thanks. Enjoy Blender, and good luck.